All right, we live. Okay. Everybody. Welcome, friends. Hello, my friends. Welcome to Study Hall, y'all. Welcome to Study Hall, y'all. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Study Hall. My name is Wes Tank. Today we're going to be having some very special guests on the show. To help us get our homework done. We're going to have the head of the class, Kellen Klassik Abston, on the show today. And Joey Grihalva, author of a book called The Milwaukeean, right here. And that book is all about the Milwaukeean himself. Klassik. And it's really, I was thinking about it, and it's really a lot about a lot of Milwaukeeans. But every story needs a main character. And this story has main character energy. Yes, 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 yes. And we're going to do it a little bit different today. We're going to do it a little bit different. Today, instead of rapping the book, I actually wrote a book, Rap Hordes. And we're going to hear from Joey and Kellen a little later from the actual book. So, Milwaukee is an ensemble cast, you might say. And as I was reading it, I was like, this book, it feels like a movie. This book feels like a movie. This book, it feels like a movie. The Milwaukeean. It's a really great book. Check it out. Check it out. Check it out. Check it out. Check it out, check it out, The Milwaukeean, A Tale of Tragedy and Triumph by Joey Grihalva. Look at that. Can you see the crease? That means it's been opened a lot. It's getting well traveled. I was actually up until 2 in the morning finishing it. I'm gonna wrap a little book report. I'm overtired. When I can't sleep, I might get wired. If I miss my job, I might get fired. That's not part of the poem. It's just reality. Welcome to the stream, y'all. I'm thinking about some things. I'm wondering, what could it be? How to tell a full-rounded story? How to funnel the surroundings? The history compounding, a cohesive founding. How to choose what life to give to, what scenes to shed light to, where the parallel pasts go. Fermenting histories, defined line by line. My, how the times go by. Who would have thought the 2010s felt like heaven? When the engrossing watch, where the names go. When you've seen everyone in plain clothes, only if you say so. I say that's the way it goes. Tell a story of your city, tragedy and triumphs and difficulties, parallels and tributaries. And fare thee wells, I remember it like it was yesterday. The scene was lush like a rainforest canopy. Things fall apart like an uprooted party. Put them back together like a hem on a sweater. You can do it on your own, but together is better. There's lots of ways we can find ourselves in the people around us. There's lots of ways we can find our own stories when we hear other people's stories. So it's important to tell our stories. Speak your truth. Be you. You can be you. You can be you. Even when you win, sometimes you lose. And when you lose, sometimes you win. Well, we've got the man himself standing by here. Why don't we bring him in? You up for that? Kellen, you care to come in? Give me a thumbs up. All right. Cool. Oop.
Hello.
Hello, 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 Kellen. We'll bring in Joey in a little bit, but why don't we get a little jam going while we got a little jam going? Tragedy and triumph.
I don't know where that went, but hopefully it went somewhere cool.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we're trying a little audio experiment from collaborating on music from separate spaces. We both have our little space stations here. And Kellen, you're actually in the same neighborhood as me, basically adjacent.
Yeah, like if it was summertime and we had all of our windows open and we were like playing this from speakers, we could just like talk to each other like through PAs from like down the block.
Oh yeah.
Let's just like go out on our porch. I'll just go out there and be like, "Yo, hey." Should I go test it? Should I like yell at the window and see if you can hear me?
Yeah. I can see your house from here.
Hey Wes! Hey Wes!
Hey Kellen.
How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? How you doing?
Yeah, pretty good. Luckily, we have microphones, so we don't have to yell and ruin our vocal cords. But yeah, this is nice. How does it feel? How does it feel?
No one can say the phrase "How does it feel?" without me thinking of D'Angelo. But it feels good. It's gray out, but I'm in my space station in my studio, which is my happy place. Um, and I'm with good people. You, of course, my friend, and we've done some splendid things together, and in our own right. And
Yes, indeed.
yeah, I'm feeling like we can bring a little light on this kind of gray, little weird day.
Yeah, definitely.
How are
Uh,
you? How are you doing?
man, I'm good. I just I've been so immersed in the book here and kind of like your life and thinking about Milwaukee and past times and stuff like that. And it's kind of been eye opening for me and really we'll get deeper into the book when Joey gets here, but like just I was really like felt illuminated by it. Like I was like, "Oh wow, this is really cool that you can tell a story about your, existence." And just and it doesn't feel like journalistic. It feels like a novel in a way. And that was really cool. And and it felt like a movie, and I was moved to write because of it, which is always a good sign, I think, of a good book when it inspires you to, take it forward and stuff. But, I just like, yeah, I've always admired your work. And, I think the first time I ever saw you perform was at when I was documenting. I filmed you probably the first time I met you, I imagine, at what I forget the name of the building, but it was for YP week. You did a performance with a band, and it was in like a big old lush building from downtown. Do you remember that performance? Remember that YP week? It was Milwaukee. They had like
Yeah, did
it was like young
was
professionals and stuff. It was kind of a corporate feeling type thing.
was it the thing I also did with the ballet, or am I thinking about something different? Because I also did a naked ballet thing, and I thought maybe that was during that week. They weren't actually naked, but it was like a stripped down. Like I had a band and they played and they did like choreography to it in the and I can't think of the name of that building
Was
either.
it like the Mackey building or something like
Yeah,
that? It's
I
something
mean
like that. I don't know if that was that one, but it was one of those.
one of those
Oh
buildings
man. One
downtown.
of those old Milwaukee, like ornate, huge ballrooms. It might have been with the ballet. It might have been with the ballet.
Because
I
that
remember there was part of it
that
that
building
wasn't,
has
but
like
there
a
was, yeah.
huge, I think the Mackey building on Michigan has that like
Yep.
huge ornate thing, and there's like a huge like ballroom dance where they do like tons of events there. But I'm pretty sure that was during YP week, and I also
Yeah.
had a band. Yes, you were there documenting it. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember that because I like shook your hand and was like, yeah, I had heard a lot about you from Josh Evert, our mutual friend. And who is he's mentioned in the book a bunch from when he started Art to Para Todos, which was like a big music event in Milwaukee, that raised money for Milwaukee public schools art programs. And I had heard of you from him, and that was like maybe in like 2011 or something like that, before I think then you really kind of launched on, and like everybody in town knew who you were and stuff like that. So you sort of, after you released Seasons, I think that was when you really started to be like kind of like the guy, um, you know, the guy. um,
Uh,
yeah. Oh, Joey.
what
Hey,
up,
What
Joey?
up?
Joey G.
I think
How's
y'all
it
were
going,
talking
man?
about the grain exchange
That's the
performance.
one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Were you at that show?
I was at that show, and that originally was going to be in the book. That was a great scene. You had Three Stacks Elliott as the backing band.
did.
You had members of the ballet, and for
Yo.
me, my stepdaughter was there. She was 4, and she was crawling around, and she was just in awe of Kellen, right there, like on the. It was, I think, it was a red carpet too. It was very fancy.
Yeah, like they had like a whole like special like
Mhm.
dance floor specifically for the ballet dancers, and they had like the nice like fancy carpet and like kind of I feel like there were like velvet ropes around the
Yes.
dance floor.
Yes.
You know,
Velvet ropes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like this guy, the documentarian coming in with the facts. Yo,
I know.
That
Yeah, the
that didn't make the
journalist.
book. That was like cutting room floor. It was up on a whiteboard like this, but it didn't make it in the book. But that's a quintessential classic performance, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was really cool. I remember that. So what was the name of the band that you were with?
that was 3 Stacks Elliott at the
3
time,
Stacks.
which was
Yeah.
Sam Casala's what was his outfit. Now Sam is performing, and I just saw him the other night at VAR Gallery, performs as Ratman, an acronym. So he's been doing a lot of not SP. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
P404, like live vinyl sampling. He's a drummer by trade, and then kind of got into like the sampling thing. So now he's been like doing solo sets with like the SP, and he'll have like a little 45, and he's like literally like pulling snippets off, and like it's super ill. So yeah, it was his
Awesome.
jazz backing band at the time, and they were like playing with a few different people. I feel like I've throughout the years had like different outfits behind me until I got to whatever this current iteration of the student body is. So
Yeah.
Still-
Yeah. Shout out to Ratman. I've been seeing his stuff on Instagram, chopping up the samples with the SP. But what's so you perform solo a lot with your space station?
Yeah, I wish I had a cool camera. Like we had to do some different routing, but normally I'd have the camera a little bit further back so you guys can see it. But yeah, this is where I write. I write standing up because I write in here, and where I practice. So I have this now pretty much just set up like a small production stage, just to the point where I just won't have to leave the house anymore. I'm just gonna like do the LaRussell route and just be like, hey, come to the attic show. I'm not moving this stuff out of the attic. I'm too lazy. You come here.
Yeah, I remember seeing you perform solo for the first time at Mad Planet.
I was gonna say Mad Planet had to be one of the first ones, because I remember seeing you at Mad Planet. I feel like that was one of the first times that we like, when we didn't like meet, but we were on the same bill and like knew of each other. Like, because I met you as an MC first.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, people know me as different things in Milwaukee, and sometimes I show up as an MC, sometimes as a videographer, sometimes as doing visuals, which we did that show as well, which is talked about a bunch in the book. The American Classics show.
Yeah.
That was the first one before not the Cactus Club that became the live album, but the original one, I guess.
Yeah.
Where we did visuals, and Joey's partner Christina did the set design, which was really cool. It was like a big collaboration. You had other musicians at that one.
Yeah, that one was Sister Strings and Nickel and Rose. That was was Nickel and Rose in that one, or it might have just been Johanna in the original one. I don't know if Carl played the first one. I think Carl he didn't play the first one, but he played the Cactus Club one.
Yeah, he wasn't at the house show, but he was at.
But it was Johanna.
Sister Strings. Yeah, Sister Strings were at the house show.
Because me and Johanna still did Ship in the Sky, I remember.
Yep.
I love this conversation. This is a lot of how the book feels. It's like kind of this like cacophony of names and places that are near and dear to all of our hearts, and sort of the scene that we came up in. And Joey, I don't know if you heard my book report that I gave a little bit because I didn't realize you had popped in there in the stream. But yeah, it was like, who would have thought that the 2010s felt like heaven, because it was like the scene felt so lush and it was such a great time in Milwaukee music. And I feel like we're in a rebuilding era right now. You know, we're sort of at the beginning of a rebuilding era, which is cool. And everyone's doing their own thing. And we're, you know, we're sort of like, we got, you know, a little used to being isolated. And now, you know, I think that DIY spirit is starting to come back, and you're starting to hear new names sprouting up and new venues, and, you know, all different setups and different roles, different identities. A lot of people sort of, you know, evolved during that time alone. But do you want to speak to your book a little bit, and tell me what was your impetus for writing this?
Yeah, the impetus. So right now I'm talking to you live from Milwaukee High School of the Arts, where I am a teacher, and Kellen is a graduate. We got some student art right up there.
Nice.
A lot of people ask me, so what's the new book, right? I've done 2 books. So my answer to that question is, it's the 2023 Milwaukee High School of the Arts yearbook, because I'm the yearbook advisor. So you see the whiteboard up there. We got work to do for the yearbook. But so this book, I say all that to say, before I was a full-time English teacher, journalism teacher, I was a freelance writer in town here. I'm from Milwaukee, born and raised in Sherman Park, graduate of MPS. Me and Kellen overlapped briefly at Rufus King. Kellen went to Rufus King for his first 2 years, and I was a senior when he was a freshman. We ran cross country together.
Yeah.
We bonded over a love of like early 2000s hip hop, and just hip hop in general, you know what I mean? But you know, we were talking about what was happening at that time. So I knew Kellen more than I knew a lot of musicians in Milwaukee. When I moved back home in 2013, I had lived in Europe. I had lived in Canada. I studied journalism in Canada, and I decided to move back home and sort of give the city a try as an adult, and was a practicing journalist, fell into music and comedy coverage, was hired by 88.9 as their first freelance writer, was hired by Wisconsin Gazette as a music columnist. So I was writing a lot about music, and I did features on a ton of the artists that we've already mentioned. I did a 3 Stacks Elliott article when they came out. Definitely did a piece on Johanna Rose, and so I did all these in-depth features and profiles of musicians, but I never did anything about Kellen. And I don't know if I was like, maybe I was like, if I'm gonna do something about Kellen, it's got to be done right. And I think I was a little hesitant to do that because I knew him so well, and I'd been covering his career. I've been watching his career, progress. And so when Quiet came out, Kellen started talking more openly about some of his past that he had previously not really been public about. And there's a lot to dig in there. So towards the end of 2019, I reached out to Kellen. I was like, would you be down to do like an in-depth profile, like something like a couple thousand words, you know? And Kellen was like, yeah, no doubt. Let's do it. And then, you know, we were just going back and forth. The pandemic hit. So all of a sudden we had a lot of time, but also things were weird. And so we started doing interviews, and we waited until it was safe to meet in person, because it was important to me as a journalist to like have that face-to-face interface. So we did interviews in the summer of 2020. The bulk of the interviews took place in 2020. And then I just started talking to other people about Kellen, but also about some of the topics that Kellen was bringing up, some of the big picture like ideas and issues that were coming up in his story. So the web just started to expand, and the pandemic just dragged on, and I was doing virtual school that year. Like, so I had a little bit more time, and it just felt like this was ripe to expand into a book. Originally, it wasn't going to be a book. Like I said, it was just going to be 2,000 word profile. And then I was like, maybe it should be a zine, something a little more tasteful, something a little more permanent, ink.
Mm-hmm.
And then my partner, who we mentioned is an artist, she's worked as a book designer. And she was like, I could design a book and this could be a book. And so I said, oh yeah, let's do that. And Kellen was like, yeah, let's,
Because I mean, like, as you know, sometimes I'm 1 foot in and 1 foot out of the rap world. It seems I get to selectively claim what part of rap I want to be. And I feel like it's a very rap thing to have, a little bit of bragging rights. And I felt like, first of all, I'm super open to being like, just being super transparent. And I think that there was something to the story. But also, like, a book, like, that's what other, like, as an MC, as an artist, and you come in like, oh yeah, you got that award. Yeah, man, that's crazy. Yeah, man, somebody wrote a book about me, and yeah, sorry, that was a little piano,
What are you?
emphasis.
Which is a little unsettling. I think I've settled into it now a little more. But it's definitely been something to get used to.
It's gotta be vulnerable, and I think you're very candid in your interviews in the book, and it goes really deep. And I commend you for being so open to that, and I commend you, Joey, for going there. Because that's it's not easy. There's a lot of tough stuff in this book, and it's just like, it's really beautiful how personal it is, and how deep it gets. Just it goes so much further than like music criticism, or even just biography, because you paint the picture of this city so well. And not just the last 10 years, but going back into the 60s, and Kellen's grandparents, and the, like, what they were going through, and what Black Milwaukee was going through, and what just all of the changes this place has gone through, all the way up to your friendship and running cross country together, which, shout out cross country, I was also a runner.
Nice.
And maybe if I had been in Milwaukee, I grew up in southwestern Wisconsin, and I came here for college in 2002. Sorry, date myself a little bit. 2002, and that was so cool. I wanted to ask you guys if you had any stories from the cross country era, that you had any. Did you have anything that you could mention, or what was that like? Getting on the bus, going to the meets.
There's a lot of freestyles.
There's
a lot of freestyling on the bus.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like, I don't know. There was like, in high school, there was never a period where I ever considered myself a rapper in high school. But I will credit. It's funny because you said the bus. One of my, and I don't know I think we've talked about this, but a super special memory. Oh, we got low. What you doing? Chill. All right. Oh, do you hear that?
A little crunchy.
Crunchy. Okay, we working.
Yeah. Yeah, little StreamYard.
I think it was just doing a thing.
Yeah.
But being on the bus for like going to either a practice or a meet, I feel like you were the person that first gave me College Dropout, or exposed me to that. I have a distinct memory of like sitting in the back of a bus in our, like, blue and gold jumpers, and you like playing me this, or like letting me listen to this, and me being like, yo, what? Somebody made this. And this was like, I was already kind of a few years into making beats already at this point, because I started in middle school. So I was already like in the practice of emulating some of my favorites, like studying and deconstructing like Dr. Dre beats and Timbaland and the Neptunes were some of my like first like production inspirations. But when Mr. West first dropped, that album for me, as a producer, and like what it meant to be, and putting the notion of like an artist. Like even then I didn't have it. I didn't have that desire, but it definitely, I feel like, planted that seed. Like, oh, this dude is making the beats, which I can do, and I can go back and deconstruct these, and then like kind of figure a different avenue out and do that thing. But for sure, planted the seed, I think, in the long run, from freshman year to freshman year of college, making the decision to myself drop out and become an artist. So like, again, not intentional, like I'm gonna follow this plan, but heavy parallels that you are connected to. So crazy.
Yeah. And in the book, the chapter about Kellen's high school experience and that sort of incubation period for the early music making and production, I call that Legos, as in the toy, because Kellen described the way he played with Legos was he would do the thing that was on the box. He would follow the imagery and do that, but then he would deconstruct it and make something of his own, which is a complete parallel to how he makes beats. So that was an interesting parallel. Inspired a chapter type.
Love that. And it's like the early years, and playing with beats and playing with sound. And you mentioned Dr. Dre there, and I remember when I first started making beats, you mentioned in the book, you said you used the program called Acid, and that was what I used as well. And it was kind of like, I just remember it feeling so cool that you could add like a bass line, and then you could add drums, and they could add like a synthesizer, and then eventually learning how to like record into it, and you could play along with the loops that they had, and could cut it really intricately. And I love that like early 2000s discovery of just that you could make music, that you could do home recording and stuff like that. It's exactly how I got my start too.
It's funny, like every generation, especially like music makers and tech, as we progress with technology, everybody has their like, oh, when I started and we had to do it this way. But I think there's something really special about that 2000s period, because the music industry and music production and just the technology itself was in the middle of such a huge shift, like for so long. And obviously analog is still here, it hasn't gone anywhere, but it was really like the digital thing, because it started in the 90s. Like there were crude versions of like Pro Tools already, but like for it, when it became the standard, when the digital workflow became the like, oh, I can do so much more and hold so much more and have so much more data and have so much more flexibility with my recordings.
Mr. Grihalva, please come to the office. Mr. Grihalva, please come to the office.
Mr. Grihalva's not here right now.
He's not here. Dang. Wait, what was I saying? Yo, where did that thought just go?
I will mute myself if that happens again.
Sorry, I'm not a good host. I should have kept that in my head, but I got distracted by the office call.
Sounds, yeah, sounds.
That beep,
sounds.
It's like it's so ingrained. You're like, whoa, what?
But that brings us back. Sounds. We're talking about sounds.
Yeah.
Audio, digital workflows. Shout out to Sony Acid 3.0 in like 2003, because whatever those loops were, like they had like, it was like salsa loops. It was like weird horn loops, like guitar loops. And it was
some really hard drums too.
Yeah. And like now thinking back on them, like, yo, those sounds were still like, those loops had more flavor and like had more of a feel than even like now everything is so just like, oh, just drop it in. And I don't know. And maybe it was because there was less tricks about it, that it really was just like getting you used to sounds and how they look on a screen. Just that transformation of recording and technology of like looking at waveforms and manipulating waveforms, and how that influenced the way I was able to chop and find a downbeat and chop a sample and be like, oh, okay, yep, okay, there's that kick, okay. So, I mean, I can tap a tempo and chop it and find the part and make it loop just by being able to read a waveform and knowing where to chop it and when you can repeat it and what sounds cool and putting something in reverse. when you didn't have, like, there weren't plugins. It was just literally, here are your loops, make a beat. It wasn't like I wasn't adding any nothing. I don't even know if that had that. I don't even know if that program had like any type of EQ or compression. I just remember loops. Like it was just a bunch of loops that you could just chop up.
That's a good question. I think you could add effects to stuff, but yeah, I definitely didn't learn about EQ and stuff and compression until like when I was using Cool Edit Pro. Did you graduate to that? Like I graduated to Cool Edit Pro, and then from that, I think I might have gone right to Ableton Live after that.
See, you special. You got a little.
I skipped a couple levels.
Yeah, no, I went. I went from Acid 3.0 in 7th grade to, I think by 8th grade I had already made the switch to Fruity Loops. FL Studio, as it's called now. Back then, it was actually just still called Fruity Loops. Fruity Loops 3, shout out. So I went from Acid 3.0 to Fruity Loops 3.0, and then that's where I was making all of my stuff in high school. So all of the stuff I was doing with Caption, man, bless that man in his memory, and just a bunch of the stuff I was making in high school. So I lived in Fruity Loops for all of high school. And then senior year, I think I got Reason. And then I was a Reason guy, and I still love it. Like they actually have a plugin now that you can just have all their sounds. Because honestly, of the things I've used, like their stock sounds were like the most interesting. So, all of In the Making was on Reason. And I want to say a lot of even Seasons, like all of YRP was Reason. Most of Seasons was in Reason, and then some recording in Logic. And then it wasn't until between like the year that I released Seasons, I got Ableton. So 2015, and I bought it like sight unseen. I just had like a bunch of homies that used it. Hitman was a big influence in that. Homie, I went to Madison as well. Talented DJ, but also like dude's like has like PhD. I don't like dude's super smart, like a genius. And he was using Ableton like back when I was still using like Reason. Like, oh man, you never mess with Ableton. And he pulled it up. I'm like, man, this looked like a Excel spreadsheet. This thing, I don't know what this is. I was averse to it. So then in 2015, I was just like, okay, let me try it. And I just took a dive, ran up a credit card, and bought a bunch of stuff I didn't know how to use yet, and just sat in my little East Side apartment at the time that was street level, so everybody walking past, and it was by Brady Street, so there was it was weird. People just stopping in the window like, oh man, what you raking in there? Like, can you not do that? That's super frightening. Please don't talk to me through my window. But I was using that time to learn Ableton. And then now I've been in, wow, that was 2015. So, and it's 2023. So now I've been in Ableton for, yeah. I like it here.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, and talking about loops, like Ableton's the ultimate for like launching loops live. And I mean, I don't know how much our audience is interested in all of the weeds of the technical stuff that we do, but I do make a point to show off the gear that I'm working with, because I know that there's kids out there that are looking at this stuff and they're like, whoa, what is that? Like, I want to learn what that is. And all of these different machines that we use. And over time, you sort of build up that repertoire of like, okay, this is the looper, this is the MIDI controller, this is the synth, this is the other synth, and this is the vocal effects. And you go into all of your setup in the book too with detail, which is really great. And I just wanted to mention too that you were the one that showed me. We had a little session in your attic, Kellen, if you remember. We did a little jam session. I was rapping some books, and you were rocking the Ableton Push right here, and I was watching you chop up the samples on that, and I was like, I want one of those. That's what I want. that's what I need to start, and I've made beats forever, and I was always doing it kind of like, I mean, I guess I've had MIDI controllers before, but this is like the ultimate MIDI controller, I think.
Oh, for sure. Mine is, if I imagine I got my overhead camera right here. I am
Yep.
looking down also at the same thing, and a couple other things. But
Yeah, we gotta get you an overhead setup.
I know, man. I
You know?
gotta, now that I'm like fully committing to this, like, okay, if this is the production studio, I mean, I got my
Mhm.
little rig where I like set up my phone camera, and it's like the iRig, and I got the sound, so it's like it's doing a thing,
Mhm.
but I'm not pretending to be a thing, and until I don't know, until it's right. I would love to. So obviously we gotta talk.
Yeah, well, yeah, we can definitely talk about that later. I can, let you in on kind of what I've got going on, but it's pretty simple, and I think people like to see that, I guess. But getting back to the book, it's like I just, I was so engrossed with all of the different nooks and crannies that the book took us down, including the equipment and including all of the various like highly specific Milwaukee things in it, and um and the emotion of it was just like so strong, as I said. And I wanted to ask you, um well, I can ask you both this, I guess, but so how would you say art, writing, music, film, anything like that, how can that be therapeutic to help you getting through struggles in life or anything like that? Either one of you can go.
Go ahead.
Wait, so I just want to make sure I understand. So basically just how is art making, how is the process of
Yeah, yeah.
producing
How
cathartic?
is has it helped you get through hard times? In the book, we go through the death of your father, and we go through issues of addiction and difficult times. This is real stuff here. That is like, again, I'm just like commend you for being so open about that stuff, because it's really, it makes it normalized in a way that it's just like, oh yeah, you can talk about that stuff, like, we can be real about it. And I imagine, you know that vulnerability is something that goes into a lot of your music. And how has that helped you over the years?
I actually I think it's I had this thought. I'm always like thinking of like rap lines at home. Like I have a thought and I'm like, dang, that's kind of clever. I should remember that.
Mhm,
Or I should journal it. And
mhm,
um I had this thought this morning, and I think it was because I was thinking about this screen. Um I have this thing with light. I'm obsessed with the idea of light. I'm obsessed with the idea of finding mine, of shining a light in a very metaphorical sense. For me, it's almost like a very literal thing. Like sometimes I really feel like there's just like a thing pulsing and like trying to break out of my rib cage and like break out of my head and my brain. But I had this thought this morning that light can only shine through something that's transparent. So um,
mm,
if I really if I'm putting this in my bio at I'm a light shiner and it's really like but I don't want it to be corny. I want it to be real. I want people to understand that this is something that is very visceral and something that I take very seriously. And so connecting that, it kind of makes sense that um, this the idea of vulnerability is something that I've been fortunate to have come very I don't know how natural it can come, but as natural as something as uncomfortable as being this vulnerable can be, I think I have. And something I've been always aware of. Like there's no desire. There's never been a desire at any point in my life for me to deliver something that was less than authentic and like, you know, emotive and transparent, even as a
mm,
kid. And so in telling this story, when Joey approached me about it, just immediately I was like, yeah, no, I think you even asked, is there anything, that you don't feel comfortable or anything? And I'm just like, no, like everything is on the table. Like I can't tell you a piece of a story, because that's what happens, and we make, and that's just in day-to-day interactions when we make these snap judgments, or we take things out of context, or we just get a piece of something, or we're only getting what someone is willing to even give us. Like we're only working with a certain understanding because someone is not even being authentic with us or from the jump. And we don't see that. And, all of the layers of what keeps us from direct communication and honest communication. So those are things that are super imperative to me as a person. And then obviously the person and the artist for me are just like, it's just one and the same. There's no character of Klassik. Klassik is just the artistic iteration, the voice, the conduit of which the things I'm using over and the things that I'm experiencing away. Klassik is the transparent screen. This is Klassik, actually. This is the metaphor. Welcome to the classroom. Klassik is simply the screen in which that light strip behind, like that's Kellen. So right now, this is everything about me as a person, everything about me as an artist is about how can I filter the light through this? And when something is transparent, that means it's not coloring it. Like the light that's behind it is just the light that it is. It's just a clear screen, and being able to keep things in perspective and still being able to get the light, but being like, okay, you don't always get the full light. It is filtered through, and it's filtered through your frame of reference. Anyway, I went on a tangent.
Yeah. Snaps.
That's
that was great.
I do have to write that. I saw it popped up in the chat, and I did, like, when I thought that this morning, like that's like a whole, that's for sure. Like light can only shine through that which is transparent. Yeah. And I think because I was thinking about like us in the book, and obviously knowing that there's a bunch of vulnerable, heavy stuff that, people wouldn't have known because I was able to be a highly functioning addict, and being that I wasn't alone in that, not alone in that. There are a lot of people in this great and lovely state. There are just certain habits and things that are, a part of culture, that there are super deep underlying issues that affect us socially and the way that we are able to engage and participate in this world. And we live in a culture, especially here in Wisconsin, that has like 35 of the top 50 drunkest counties in the country. We celebrate in a different way. And so being an artist and being in that, having access to just everything all the time, quickly took my life into a space where it was starting to be unrecognizable. And because I'm thankful and I'm fortunate for being an audio child. What?
Audio child as well.
Because I had facts. I had a lot of time to get to know myself at an early age. So when it came time to, like, I didn't get into like drinking and drugs and stuff like that until like my later 20s. Like it wasn't even a college thing, because I wasn't in college that long. So I'm fortunate to have found myself in that predicament at a pivotal point where I had built up enough awareness to know where I kind of wanted to go, and being exposed and kind of finding myself in the mix. And then in the matter of, a few years, which again, I'm thankful for, because some people don't ever make it out of this circuit of addiction and mental health and all of the things that can like super weigh you down. I didn't want to be stuck in that. I was seeing myself from the outside and like, man, this is not, this ain't it. This is not going to a good place. I'm just gonna say. But that was me on the outside. But I was still experiencing it, and still it was weird. Like just very much so knowing that like this is not what's up, but this is like scratching an itch that I've developed that I don't know how to stop scratching, and I want to stop scratching it. That's another metaphor for sure.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I have a wonderful community of family and friends, and just the city and people, community leaders that kind of stepped in and also saw that. And at the end of the day, I just had to want it. It stumbled a bunch to get to that point, and that's just true for everything. If you want it enough, there has to be a certain diligence, and there has to be a willingness to fail. There has to be an acknowledgement. I have to go into things knowing that I'm gonna mess up and I'm gonna fall flat on my face, and that's okay, because that's what it takes to get to the thing. If I don't fall, if I don't make a fool of myself, I don't have an awkward moment, then I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah. I think a lot of people can relate to that, like fail forward. I think Will Smith talks a lot about that in his book.
I don't know if you can
Fail.
see it.
Yeah.
There's a banner in the corner of my room that says "Success comes from failure."
Yeah.
That's just like a message I try to tell my students. But Wes, I wanted to answer your question with a quote.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned before, I talked to more than just Kellen for this book. Kellen was the jumping off point, but then I was introduced to different people who played a role in his life or were sort of experts in some of the issues that were coming up. And one of those people was the great Dasha Kelly Hamilton, former poet laureate of the city of Milwaukee and the state of Wisconsin. And when I talked to Dasha about Kellen, and she knew Kellen in his early 20s when he was just kind of coming back from Madison, she guided him a little bit in his path there. After I talked to Dasha, she was impressed by sort of my interview style and the discussion we had. And she had just gotten word that she was becoming the Wisconsin Poet Laureate, and she needed someone to write a profile of her for this magazine. So this cover story in Wisconsin People and Ideas of Dasha, our poet laureate there, was a result of this book. It was a direct result of that book. But so I'm going to read you a quote from Dasha, and I'll say a few things about it to answer this question about how sort of creativity can help you process, your pain and your sadness. So she says, the gift that is offered in creativity is a release. It is letting your logical brain fall into figuring out this process while your spirit can get some free time from being worried about all your thoughts and responsibilities and just be. It is imagining, it is grieving, it is a playroom. That's what creativity gives you the space to do. It's a seat at the kids' table. You're creating space for all the answers you don't have to just let all that ethereal swirl. And then she goes on to say, when it's specifically creating something in response to grief, you just have to let that happen. Even though your logical brain is searching for words or searching for notes or whatever those elements are in your craft, you're giving space for your sadness to be, you're giving space for your anger to be. But it is a release, and it is, it's not necessarily a distraction, creativity, but it's a new venue. It's a venue to take your sadness and to take your grief and your anger, and to do something different with it. And not everyone is an artist. It considers themselves an artist, whether professional or amateur. But creativity is something we do every day, even if it's just I'm making dinner. That's a space to be creative. That's a space to let that part of your brain like have fun and play. And the more we engage in that, I think the more we either consciously or subconsciously help process the difficult stuff that we're going through.
Yeah, man. Shout out to Dasha Kelly. Shout out to creativity. That is true. And yeah, I mean, art is a complicated term, and I think it gets misconstrued, and it's not always, it can be intimidating in a way, but yeah, you're right. Creativity is something we do all the time. even just like thinking about what to have for lunch, you got to be creative sometimes, and yeah. And thanks for reading that quote from the book. Do you want to try doing a little more from the book, possibly?
Yeah.
The little musical accompaniment, maybe?
Yeah,
What do you
let's do
think?
this. Let's do it. Yeah.
We
Let's,
were talking about our mutual friend Adam Carr, who's mentioned, and I think you hopefully launched his mayoral campaign
yeah.
in the when you said he should be the mayor of Milwaukee. I had to chuckle. I think everybody that knows Adam has had that thought, but he probably would dismiss it. But maybe someday he'll be at that point. But his mom, the art therapist,
Janet
I won't
Carr.
I won't give it away what you put it better in the book. So
Well, yeah, Adam is
um
someone that I went to high school with. Shout out Rufus King. But Adam is he's super connected in Milwaukee, and he just knows a lot of people. He created Community Stories at 88.9, which is non-commercial radio station here in Milwaukee. So it's just like getting to know real people. And so naturally, when I started this project, and I knew that I wanted to make it bigger than just a biography of Kellen, I knew I had to reach out to Adam and get some advice on art therapy and some of the other issues that we're talking about. And his mother just happens to be a licensed art therapist, and she started a program at Mount Mary for art therapy, which coincidentally my partner is going to be doing. Shout out to her.
nice.
And so I went to see Janet to have a conversation about art therapy and this conversation that we're having right now about creativity and healing. So yeah, I can read a little bit of that.
Cool.
So on an early Friday evening in August 2022, Janet Carr and I are set to speak via Google Meet, but we're having technical difficulties. I can't hear her. We decide that the universe wants us to physically interface. So I drive out to her house on the east side and we sit on her patio. She never takes off her mask. She tells me that while she doesn't want to get COVID-19, she is at peace if and when death finds her. Our conversation begins by establishing a basic truth. Everything is connected. She tells me about Lewis Thomas and how all living matter exists in the simple cell. We talk about the importance of travel. She tells me about some community work she did in Senegal with her daughter Eileen. You see, Janet's family came to the United States from China. She grew up in Compton in the Watts neighborhood of Los Angeles. Her younger sister had polio. I learned that Janet wanted to be an artist, but that was an, quote, outrageous proposition, according to her parents. So she went into nursing and specialized in psychology. That's where the anchor is, Janet says, understanding the psyche. To me, the arts are the epitome of that. Janet and her husband, Dick Carr, lived in Washington, D.C. before they moved to Milwaukee. One of the things that attracted them to the city was the quality of our public schools. This was in the 1990s. She says that the caliber of education in the MPS magnet schools was better than the private schools. She went on to teach at Mount Mary, and she helped make it so that art therapists received title protection through a licensure process. Looking back on it, though, Janet questions the necessity of the license, considering the universal therapeutic qualities of art making. She says, any art is inherently therapeutic. Just the act of making art is healing. You know it's working when you go into that space, like when you're writing, or when your significant other is painting, referring to my partner, or when Kellen is composing and performing. It's getting into that space where everything else falls away. When you lose track of time. You can stay up all night working on something and not realize it's dawn because you entered that zone. But for it to be effective, it doesn't have to be 8 hours. It can be 1 second. Let's see. As she speaks, birds chirp and sing overhead. She tells me about a family of robins who made a nest on her property. At one point, a black and yellow finch appears and she becomes excited. She's never seen it before. She says that it came just to see me. Janet tells me about the Wadijna, large cliff drawings of guardian spirits made by Aboriginal people in Australia, which had to be renewed regularly or they would wash away. She likens the Wadijna to the Day of the Dead in Mexican culture, a process of remembering the departed so they are not forgotten. They have power to help us. I think it's like that with the arts and art therapy. We're tapping into spaces that are timeless, bigger than you and I. When we tap into those spaces, that's how we heal. She goes on, you know, I spent a lot of time getting educated, doing graduate school, and you're asking me the most basic question. What is art therapy? You can do all these highfalutin acrobatics, but when you break it down, it's just a sweet little tumble. So that's a section from the Milwaukeean, featuring Janet Carr.
Lovely.
And we're seeing a video over here that Wes made with Kellen. And my partner did some of the set design.
Mm-hmm.
And photographs from that video shoot adorn the cover of the book. And is this from the same video?
It is from the shoot.
There you go.
Yep.
It's all
Yeah,
connected.
shout out Kelly Michael Anderson on the photography.
Yes.
And shout out Christina Rolander on the set design on that. And this is one of my favorite music videos I've ever done. And thank you. And I love this song too. Maybe we'll play it again at the end with the music in it, but I just thought it would be, you know, I didn't want to compete with the audio, you know, so I did, you know, I switch usually when it's like I go from visual to audio back again, sometimes combined. Yeah, we had a lot of fun on that. But I think that, you know, art is therapeutic. It's something that you can do to make yourself feel better and to express how you feel and share that with others. But once it's out, you know, it's out. One of our former guests we had on the show was Tia Richardson, who does a lot of art therapy in schools. And I know, Kellen, you've done some work in schools. Obviously, Joey, you're in the school right now, getting ready to go teach second period.
Yeah, I got kids coming in.
I love it, and you know, and a lot of our audience is teachers and students who watch my videos, and I really wanted to share Klassik with them and share this book with the, you know, the teachers and the big kids out there ready to read something with a lot of meat to it. And I know the kids are gonna love Klassik's music, the kids and the adults, and because it always has a good message. And I brought up Tia because I did an art activity with her that was like, it made me cry because I was like, and I was watercolor painting. I never paint, you know. I gave up trying to paint, you know. I'm like, I do a lot of different types of arts. I don't have to also try to paint. But like when I did it, it was like it you know, it just sort of like drew the way it was like a quiet activity and just kind of like trying to like find harmony between the colors. And it really like just like I was like, oh, this is what art therapy is. You know, it doesn't matter necessarily what the picture looks like at the end of the day. It's like how it felt coming out of you as you like just like let your feelings go. And I think that music does that so well. Writing does that so well. For me, writing really has been something that gave me a lot of therapy, and I feel like I used to write a lot more than I do now. And sometimes, I get blocked with that. And especially, I don't know, in the last couple years, it's like I've had trouble, um and I don't know why, but I was reading this book over the weekend, and I mentioned I was like up until 2 a.m. last night finishing it. And but something funny happened on Monday, because I read it on Sunday afternoon. I read like the biggest chunk of it. And on Monday morning, I was like, I've been working on this new series where I'm doing more of like telling kind of my story of my life and kind of what I go through and what I'm working on, because I feel like I'm constantly like in the lab working. And a lot of times these live streams are the only way I can like really share products, because I'm constantly working so much, and I'm not as much spending time on like sharing and getting the work out there. And it's something that I need to work on. But I was like, but I knew this was something I wanted to write a script for, and write, get exactly what I wanted to say out there. And after reading the book, I was like, the next morning I woke up and I was like, I just like the sentences started to come, and I was like, oh, I think seeing like the world that I knew, written on the page in a way that felt like I was reading a 33 and a third book, which is like a great series of like music album books. I'm sure you're well familiar with those. And where it's like a book about an album, but it's not just it draws you in because it's the album that you like, but the book itself takes you into the whole social context of where that artist came from and where their whole career and how this album like fit into that puzzle. And it was just like reading that style of writing, but about a world that I was a part of. I was like, oh, I don't know. So it just like opened my mind, and I just wrote a ton about it, which will need to be edited back. But like sometimes it's just that unlocking the key. And so thank you for giving that to me.
Great art can be so inspiring, right? I mean, I feel like I write like when you open the spout, right? It's like you got it. It's all building up. It's all there. It's all swirling. But like to open the spout, a lot of times, what it takes is experiencing, reading, watching, hearing, listening to great art. And I'm obviously qualifying this as great art, which is a little egotistical, but
no, it is. It really is. It's a great book, and I can attest to it. It inspired me. I know it'll inspire others. And I think the quality and integrity of Kellen's art is like really captured in here, and in this, and the quality of the community of this city. And I know that, like, I mentioned before, this feels like we're in a rebuilding time right now, but you're seeing all of that stuff. You're seeing all of the elements that were happening. They're still here. Like the soil is still fertile here. And and maybe we went through a tough winter, but the seasons continue. So
Seasons, they do change. They do change. They do change.
Okay. All right.
Last night, Kellen and I ran into each other at a birthday party for one of our, if we're going to make, the soil, one of our oldest, tallest, strongest trees in this scene here, Mr. Manty Ellis. Shout out.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mr.
yeah.
Manty Ellis right there.
That's that guy right there. And there's my teacher standing next to him on the flute. Yep. Gentleman that taught me jazz.
Berkeley Fudge right there.
Oh, wow.
Turned 90.
Yeah.
This guy turned 90 last night.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
It was a
Yeah.
beautiful affair at Sam's place, the jazz club on MLK. It was
Oh,
just a perfect way to celebrate MLK Day with me.
Yeah,
His
I'm
90th
I'm
birthday.
so glad that you reminded me, and I'm
Mhm.
glad that Jamie at Breivik reached out actually last week, like immediately was like, Kellen, Monday night, 6 o'clock, Manny Ellis' 90th birthday. I was like, all right, I'm there.
Yeah.
Um,
gotta
and
go.
of course I ran into, well, you told me you were going, but for me, that was so, I feel like I'm still processing a lot of that. Um, but it felt like we were talking about the soil. It felt familiar to walk into this place where like the elders know me and they know what it is, and I'm there just as a like I'm not even I'm here as a spectator, as a fan, as a student still to like, and these people are in their 70s, 80s, and now 90s. And just hearing their stories, and like these are international accomplished artists who used to sit on the back steps of streets that don't exist in the city and hear the top artists of that time have jam sessions at all hours of the day.
Mhm.
And like seeing, like I almost saw like when Miss Goodwin, who was my 7th grade social studies teacher,
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
international, yeah, no, she was my 7th grade teacher. Like when 9/11 happened, she had the
Wow.
wheeled VCR like TV out, and we did nothing but watch that. But
Wow.
she is an accomplished like international tour. Like I don't know, did she win a Grammy? Like she was in that world in like the 70s.
Yeah.
Like accomplished. But fun fact that the last Tyler the Creator album, the song with him and Lil Wayne, which was like one of the singles, is a sample of my 7th grade teacher, this woman who was there at this birthday celebration last night, got sampled on a Tyler the Creator record.
Wow.
And I'm sure she has no idea who that is, but I'm sure she knows where that check came from. Shout out Miss
Hey.
Goodwin.
Wow.
But being in that room was like magic. And obviously Adekola was there, and she's just always the life of the party, the MCist, the MCingest MC. And it was just so much love, and like the stories, and just like seeing everyone like kind of reflect fondly, like just seeing this like group of older people all with this like twinkle in their eyes,
Adekola.
thinking about these times. That was super special, and it felt like I was a part of it. It was like a very reinvigorating. Like I left there like, yeah, man, we got time. Hey, we got time. They sitting here talking about stuff that they've been doing this for decades. I
Yeah.
know ain't none of y'all tired. I know y'all not talking about you tired. Did you hear what they? Yeah, we got work to do. Let's go. Like that's what it felt like for me. Like, okay, they know what it is. I know what it is. This isn't for the short-sighted.
Man, that's so crazy that Penny was your 7th grade teacher when 9/11 happened. It's a testament to the web is even more intricate than I knew, because, in this book, 9/11, there's a 9/11 thread that runs through this book. There's a few different traumas that are discussed in this book, and the pandemic, 9/11 being collective traumas that kind of we went through as a society. And so I talk about in this book when Kellen, how he experienced 9/11, but did not know that Penny was also a part of that. But this is my first book. This is a mostly pictorial history of Milwaukee jazz. But there's a through line between these two books, because Adekola, who we were just talking about, she kind of emceed last night. She was a teacher's assistant at Kellen's elementary school. And when I was interviewing her for this book, she was rhapsodizing, reminiscing, just telling stories. And she told me a story about one day she was in the halls at Lloyd Street School, and she heard a saxophone coming from a room, and she was like, oh, it was so good. She just thought Berkeley was there. Berkeley being one of the godfathers here. He played flute and saxophone. She just thought Berkeley was there, and she went to the room to go say hi. But no, it was fourth grade Kellen. And she immediately thought to herself, well, I need to get him to Berkeley because he is the next, he is on that level. And so she told me this great story, and she was like, you know who that little kid was? I think he goes by Klassik now. And I was like, I know Klassik, I know Kellen. So that was before this book was even thought of, but that story is in this book, Adekola's story of discovering Kellen, bringing him to Berkeley being like, I ain't taking no 10-year-old, like, nah. And then she takes him to a Heath Brothers masterclass at the conservatory, and Kellen gets up there and plays, I think, Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
Indeed.
And just blew Berkeley away, and Berkeley said, I guess I'll take him.
I'm like looking at that saxophone right now. I still have it. So that was the saxophone that my dad bought me. I still have, pick it up every now and then. But you're like telling the story. I'm like, hell, you and me, we've been through some things, huh? Wow, that's going back a ways. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Or the time
you've got those.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say you've got those jazz roots. That's like such a awesome continuation of, from these great artists of the past who are still around, and they're still making music and getting up on that stage in front of that crowd, and that's so great. What were you gonna say though? I interrupted you.
Another young Kellen story that a lot of people might not know. He played, I think it was fifth grade, with the Milwaukee Symphony Orchestra behind him.
Sixth grade
with the Milwaukee Symphony. Just like that experience of being on stage playing. Was it a Coltrane song? Was it a Coltrane song?
No, it was Charlie. It was Charlie Parker's Summertime. And the only reason I know that that's one of my most fond, still to this day, performance memories. I think that did more for the formation of the idea of me as classic, and just like what that felt like for me. Because that was January, I want to say, of 2001. And so it was 2 months after I lost my father. Wow. And so there was just a lot going on in an 11-year-old head, but also like in this, like, you're a musician, we got these rehearsals, you're playing with the symphony. And so I did Charlie Parker. There's a Charlie Parker album called Bird with Strings, and it's just Charlie Parker backed by an orchestra. It's some of the most beautiful music you could ever hear in your life, still to this day. And I got to play that so having that feeling of, here I am on this little stand, and it's me and my little saxophone, and there's 90 people behind me, or I don't know, however many people are in an orchestra, something like that. Like, dozens and dozens and dozens of classically trained musicians behind this like 11-year-old kid. And what that felt like it's burned into my brain. Like every song for me, even still to this day, has a piece of that, for me at least. Like maybe when someone else hears it, maybe they, probably they don't feel the same way because they didn't have that exact same experience. But just know that everything I make, for me, when I'm performing it or making it or writing it, is like that memory is what that felt like, of like what that wall of sound felt like, being in the PAC, what it felt like to just have it dark and just like faces and faces, but like not being able to make them out. But like, man, it still gives me shivers, because like the way that it sounded, the arrangement of that song is just like beautiful. Summertime is just like a jazz standard classic already. Charlie Parker was a very influential saxophonist early on for me as an alto player initially. So getting the chance to like play my idol, like my 11-year-old idol, with the symphony is a very special, crunchy. Yeah, we got, very, very special memory.
Well, thanks so much for sharing that, and that's really beautiful. And why don't we wrap up, and first want to have Kellen play us out here with some nice music. But first, people can go get the book at twinarrowbooks.com.
Yes, sir.
If you're and if you're in Milwaukee, you can pick it up at Boswell or Lion's Tooth if they still have copies. Anywhere
Yep,
else? Any other
Fish
bookstores?
Burgers Variety Store. Fish
Fish
Burgers
Burgers.
has. Yep, and
Yeah.
we will ship worldwide. There might not be an option for it on twinarrowbooks.com, but if you send us an email, we can definitely work out a worldwide shipping situation for you.
Yeah. Shout out. We got Yvonne from Australia, the west coast of Australia.
West side of Australia. I'm on the west side of Milwaukee right now, so west side life.
Yes.
I'm
Yeah,
at
west
the
side.
former West Milwaukee High School.
Hey,
Yeah.
we are actually all very close to each other right now. We are in different rooms. We are like within like a 2-mile radius of one another.
Yeah, it's a 2-mile triangle.
Well, we'll have to do it again sometime in person. Once we get the our Washington Park Media Center kind of in full-fledged mode. We're getting close to having that capability to, we can do some in-person jams.
Wait,
live stream that.
Oh, we're gonna have to talk later. Did you just slip in a what? What'd you say? A Washington Park Media Center? What's that?
Oh, you don't know about the media?
You're looking at it, man. We're in it. We're in the prototype set right now for what's to come. And yeah, you should come over after this. Maybe we can show you around.
Yeah.
But and we should grab some coffee or some nice teas and continue this conversation. But thank you guys so much. And also I wanted to shout out Kellen. Where can people find your stuff? All the platforms, iamklassik.com.
Yeah. I'm trying to work on I'm constantly restructuring and doing things and trying to think of new ways to present work. So currently everything is most of the albums are on streaming. So YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, I believe it's on all of those things. But I also encourage people to just go to the website, not because I'm trying to sell you anything, although there is some stuff to buy, but just simply for I have it streamlined where it's just like, here's the video, here's the latest thing I did, here's the most recent work of the past year and a half, most of the things with visuals or links to, there are some albums that aren't on traditional streaming. There's a project on SoundCloud. There's a single and a video that's only on YouTube right now that's not on streaming. But all of those things are on my website, which are iamklassik.com. That is Klassik with a K in the front and a K in the back. Now, don't you ever forget about that.
And I encourage you to check out Kellen's Instagram and Facebook, where he does live streams pretty regularly. And you can get that new. You can get that in progress.
If you got an hour to spare and you want to see me work the same song for 50 minutes, that's my specialty. I love.
It's great.
Just flexing the possibility of a song.
We definitely have some folks on here who like to watch my rap practices on Friday night, where I go for 4 hours sometimes. And so I think we got some folks that like the progress. They like to see the process of how this stuff works. And
follow me there.
Kellen, you've been doing that longer than I have. And so, I get a lot of inspiration from you as well. And thanks so much. I know, Joey, you got to get to class.
Yep, I gotta get some stuff going on here. So thank you for having me. Enjoy what Kellen cooks up. He's a master.
Yeah,
yes, you as well. You're a master.
And Joey, I will see you later because the plans have changed. And apparently,
we're going to see Avatar.
We're going to see Avatar tonight.
You got to see it.
Hey, I don't remember the last one. It's been like 20 years. I don't have enough time to catch up. It's like a 4-hour movie.
There's YouTube videos. You can just be like everything you need to know for.
Here, let me just catch up. It's been a while. I was like in middle school when this happened before.
Shout out to everybody who's in the chat showing love.
Thank you all.
Take care.
Yeah.
Peace. Thanks, Joey. All right. Thanks to everybody in the chat watching. Thanks to everybody that's not in the chat but still watching. Really appreciate you guys for hanging out and you letting us hold some space for these wonderful artists. And Kellen, I'm gonna let you just kind of do your thing, a little bit and give people a taste of what you do. and we'll make you full screen, and we'll I'll come back on at the end, but just kind of go.
Tight. I'm stuck in between because you had pulled up the active video and I was like, dang, do I want to do active or do I want to do something? Okay. I'm not
Up
gonna
to
do that.
you.
I'm gonna switch. I'm gonna do something freestyle. Yeah, 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 yeah. 1, 2. Yeah, 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 yeah. 1, 2. Okay, let's see how this goes. I did not plan any of this, so here is the beat. Hey, 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 yeah, hey. All right, all right, all right, all right, all right, all right. Hey, hey. Make it real. Make it real. Make it yeah, yeah. Check 2, 1, 2. Check, 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 check 2, 1, 2. Real music in this thing. What are you gonna do? Yeah, real music in this thing. What are you gonna do? Or what are you gonna do? What are you gonna? Yeah, I had to find a beat. I had to find a heat. Turn it up. It's a little cold below degrees, beyond degrees. I never graduated, but I'm beyond degrees, decrees, or anything that you could ever declare. Beware, reader, beware, like it's a goosebump scare. It's time to climb up the stairs instead of things that scare you. Right up in the eye and tell them I dare you. That was a line from something that I carried over from the active video. Gotta get it really though. Hey, yeah, the boy really flowed. The boy really goes off the Richter scale. I'm next to those that shift the weight and do the things that don't do well. I will be frail. I will prevail. Wait, hey, let me skate up on this beat one time. Hey, let me skate up on this beat one time. Hey, let me skate up on this beat one time. Hey, I don't like the way this piano coming through. It's only coming through on one side. Gotta do a little mix. There we go, like that. I like the way it sits. And we make this real. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Had to buy a little time so I could switch up the mix. If you got a problem, I probably got the fix. This a sticky situation, sorta like a stick or post-it note. I post to go coast to coast with the most of flows. And from the coast of Australia to the best side of the west side of the best city, man, I tell you. Cream City, you never fail you. Coming through with nothing but less than, I don't know, no stress, man. Hey, this is not paraphernalia of nothing but light and staring it right in the, I wish I might, flying on the, yeah, you can tell I'm freestyling, this is just for you. I really gotta move, I really gotta groove, I really gotta do this, pursue this, ain't nothing usual, nothing but the usual, Can you make this real? And you make this real. Can you make this real? Yeah, I hit him with a little high now falsetto. This is a little narrow situation like a stiletto. Heels appeal, the width appeals. I grind, I wheels, the wheels on the corner, they go round and round. I mean, the wheels on the bus, I mean, and God we trust. I mean, if God is us, I mean, God is coming through. I thrust it, take it to another level, like a rocket power, like a letter. Never settled, gotta get it off the dome, kicking it off, you know I'm home. Really though, I'm really home in an address that I won't share with you. Please don't be up on stairs yet. Don't come to the front door of the lair yet. In a lair jet, and I'm flyer than man, wire thin, but fat rhymes coming through. Scat rhymes like a jazz time. Yeah. I want to thank West Ham. I want to thank Joey Grihalva. I want to thank Milwaukee. I want to thank the world for those that tune in. Yeah. Now when I say study, you say hall. Study hall, study hall, study hall, study hall.
Study hall, y'all. Yo,
Yeah.
Kellen, Klassik, Abston.
Man, you know,
in
I
the
just
building.
Hey.
When I say study, you say hall. Study hall. Study hall. When I say study, you say hall. Study hall. Study hall. Study hall, y'all. Yo, thanks so much, everybody. Thanks for being here. Thanks, Kellen. Thanks, Joey. Man, thanks, Books. Thanks, Milwaukee. Man, that was super awesome. Anyways, thanks so much for being here. And yeah, we'll let it go off of that. Maybe I'll actually just play us out with the music video for Active that I directed a few years back now. And thanks so much, y'all. I'll be back for rap practice this Friday, and next week on the show we've got the great Inosanto Nagara, author of A is for Activist, who's going to be joining us on the show. So
what a segue.
Yeah.
Playing Active, and then the next guest is the author of a book titled A is for Activist.
Yes. Yeah, I'm super excited. I'm really happy with how this show has been really fun, and I'm like, I'm getting to interview authors and artists and musicians and having a lot of fun with it. So yeah, thanks everybody. We'll see you on the flip side. Peace. Music. M.
I've seen some things that you would find hard to believe. These ain't nightmares, these ain't dreams. This is happening. It's happening. In this life, you can't be passive, gotta be active. When all is small. I've seen some things that you would find hard to believe. These ain't nightmares, these ain't dreams. This is happening. It's happening. In this life, you can't be passive, gotta be active. When all is small. I've seen some things that cannot be erased. Confront my demons face to face. I'm in the space of elevation. The elevator cannot take me down, will take me out of pace. And I erase, I might just well go crazy. See, it's been raining in the purple hue when kingdoms fall. This prince will do my print is new. This ink is fresh and dripping through the pages. Burn sensation, grip these raging views of distant nations. Why be patient? But you could just mold a new civilization. Alive nations wanna stop a fella, but I've been rocking hella stages. Slaying them per usual. Just use the tools of ancient movements. Move the fools that are just way too complacent. This groove's adjacent, never parallel. I pair with held in heavenly bodies. My reverence is godly, but I don't patron saint. These patrons can't even afford these pieces. Peace I cannot paint with all this hate around me. Surrounded with sounds and stereo. Oh, there he go. Speaking that new and mono, but you too like Bono can shred the hate if you were more aware of the shit that scares you. Stare it in the eye and tell it, yo, I dare you to climb the stairs to a higher place. Not like heaven, I preach to reverence in the pastor. If your pasture is not green, my fertilizer will get you there so much faster. Relax, relax, hold on, please take your time. Relax, relax, hold on, please take your time. Relax, relax, hold on, please take your time. Relax, relax, breathe and rewind. Relax, relax, hold on, please take your time. Relax, relax, hold on, please take your time. Relax, relax, hold on, please take your time. And breathe and rewind. I've seen some things that you would find hard to believe. Yeah. These ain't nightmares, these ain't dreams. This is happening. It's happening. In this life, you can't be passive. Gotta get active. When all is small, I've seen some things that you would find hard to believe. Yeah. These ain't nightmares, these ain't dreams. This is happening. It's happening. In this life, you can't be passive. Gotta get active. When all is small. When all is small.